we're sitting here today and we're in this huge complex. And when I met you, you're at a different organization and you were like, hey, I see this need. We're just going to meet this need. So I just love to hear more about Thrive and like where it came from and then, where you guys are at today.
Okay. Ready to start whenever?
Yeah.
All right. So Thrive really started out of a need that my wife Terry saw. She was a mentor for a young lady that was in a human trafficking
Mhm.
program. She had 6 kids in foster care, was pregnant with her seventh. And she asked us whether we would be willing to take that seventh child when it was born because she knew that he was going to enter into foster care too. And so we agreed to do that. And as we walked this journey with this mom, realized that there were not a lot of resources for biological families. There's a lot of resources for foster families, for foster children, but for biological families that are really trying to keep their kids in their home, there
Mhm.
wasn't a lot of resources. So Terry looked at me one evening over dinner and just said, I think that we need to do something about this. And she asked me to go and buy a truck that we could go and pick up other people's stuff so that we could just give them the items that the Department of Child Safety was requiring them to have to be able to keep their kids in their homes. We started with that. Started with one truck out of our home, pouring stuff in a metal storage container, and then God just kept opening doors for us to serve more and more families. We initially wanted to serve 50 families the first year that we started Thrive, which was back in 2016. So it's our 10-year anniversary this year, so we're excited about that. But we just started to grow and grow and grow, and the need just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And now we're serving over 100 families a month. We're giving out almost, well, between 75 and 85 beds a month to kids. That's the main thing that we do here is Safe Sleep, where we provide a brand new bed or crib to a child so that they can stay in their home rather than being taken from their home due to neglect,
Mhm.
because not being able to provide a bed, believe it or not, is considered neglect. And so we started with that. And then in 2020, we started to learn about the problem with young adults that were transitioning out of foster care at the age of 18. And almost 50% of them were going to be homeless within the
Mhm.
first year of transitioning out. And so we were given a couple of homes that we were able to start housing young adults that had aged out. In 2023, we moved out onto this property. It's a 25-acre property that has several housing units on it. So now we house 55 young adults that have aged out of foster care.
And how many may not know this number. I'm just curious how many kids have gone through Thrive, do you think? I know you're 55 at this time, but do you have a number, like, estimate about how many people have gone through it?
Well, we served 115 young adults last year.
Okay.
And so I mean, my guess would be probably close to 6 or 7.
Okay, 6 to 100. So,
Yeah.
wow. Where so and as I love what you guys do because you guys are so much in the prevention side of things where and you can't measure prevention.
Mhm.
I mean, you guys have served so many people and you can't put it on, well, we've prevented this or this. But how many, in your estimate, how many families do you think you've impacted?
Well, I can tell you that we've kept over 6,000 kids out of the foster care system. And those are verified numbers through the Department of Child Safety.
Mm.
Um, that is our main goal is prevention. Some of what we do is reunification when we're helping families get back together. But we serve on average 1,200 families a month or a year. I'm sorry. So you add that up, it's a pretty big number.
That's a huge number. And so as you transitioned into housing, because that's a different thing.
Mhm.
Dropping something off is totally different than going, hey, I'm going to be in, you're going to be in our care or, be around here. And, for us too, my wife and I, it's full circle moment too, because we've had a couple of our girls that were, when we worked at the group home,
Mhm.
be here
Yeah.
too, after, kind of aging out type of a thing. So as you were going from, hey, we need to get, trucks to deliver to, oh, we need to have help these kids. What was, what was that transition like? What was that like learning curve?
Well, it was a huge learning curve because suddenly you're not wanting to be a parent, but you are a parent
Mhm.
for 18 to 25-year-old kids that don't want a parent or at least don't think that they want a parent. And so that struggle of trying to help them navigate all of the trauma that they've experienced in their past and all the things that they need to do to be able to be successful going forward, that was a real challenge for us. And we quickly realized that just providing them a safe place to sleep wasn't enough. We had to provide more resources for them, you know, from the mental health side, from educational side, even the basic things like getting them their basic documents, their social security cards and their birth certificates and things that you would think that they would already have, but they didn't. And so we just realized that it was a much bigger undertaking
Mhm.
than just saying, hey, here's a key, you got a room, you know, go make a nice life for yourself,
Mhm.
because that just wasn't going to kick it.
Yeah, I experienced that when we were at the group home, same thing. It was like, oh, if we can just give them their basic needs or whatever it is, then, that'll change it. And that does help.
Mhm.
It does help, but they do need so much more. And so kind of going into I know we talked about a couple different things, but, from a mental health standpoint, what was I mean, as you guys, I mean, you worked at another organization that helped with, sex trafficking victims. So you were exposed to the importance of mental health and the trauma that they've experienced because they're coming in and they're broken.
Mhm.
Like they're not coming in healthy.
That's right.
So what was your kind of your process as you were kind of going through like kind of just mostly on the mental health side of things?
Well, we knew early on that we needed to come at this from a trauma informed
Hmm.
lens. We needed to make sure that we were trauma informed, that our staff was trauma informed, because you know that mental health conditions, that trauma manifests itself as a mental health condition, and it's not always the classic bipolar and all the things that we want to medicate these kids for. It's because of the trauma that they've experienced and the fight or flight that they're in. And so unfortunately our healthcare system wants to give them medication. They want to take them out of the fight or flight that they're in, not by helping them get better, but by medicating them. And it just puts them down a slippery slope. And so we experience that a lot here, where the majority of our young adults that come here are on some type of a mental health medication. And they probably don't need to be. They need to be able to dig into what really is causing the trauma that they're experiencing, and how do we fix that so that we're unable to be a successful person because we can't sleep,
Hmm.
we can't cognitively process things because we're medicated. And so we realized that we needed to do something different, and we also realized that talk therapy wasn't working just as talk therapy. Talk therapy is great, it really is, if it's done well and done right. But for somebody that's been fight or flight, to somebody that's been in the foster care system forever, they know how to game that system. They are tired of telling their story. They're having to meet with different people every time they go in, and so they just tell them what they want to hear. They're not even really thinking about their answers. They're just firing it off
Hmm.
because they've answered the same question 20 times already.
Yeah, we talked about the term that's used a lot is therapied out. What have you seen when someone comes in, going back to that talk therapy? Because again, talk therapy is great, but from they're in their fight and flight all the time, or that's just how their reaction. So from a therapy to out standpoint, when we had the conversation about going into the direct neurofeedback or what we're doing with calm waves, what was it about that solution? I guess when we were having, I remember we were having lunch,
Mhm.
you brought that up of like, okay, we needed something besides this or to go alongside it.
Yeah.
So what were you seeing in that kind of like space of what needed to be added to it?
Well, the exciting thing about what neurofeedback has done is it's helping our young adults get out of fight or flight so that they can rest, so that they can have a moment of peace. And what we found is that the longer that lasts, the more rest they're getting as they're doing neurofeedback on a consistent basis. Now, talk therapy is actually being more productive for them because they're not in this anxious state when they're communicating. Even when they communicate with us as a staff, they're able to communicate better. They can share things more. It's not uncommon when we're doing neurofeedback that suddenly they just start talking, like they just start telling us things that we didn't even know before, because they didn't want us to know, one, and two, some of it was just locked up and they just weren't ready, and they weren't even able. And so neurofeedback has opened up those channels to where now that they can start to process things on a safer basis, because they're not thinking that they're having to protect themselves. Now they're a little bit more relaxed. It's like, okay, oh wow, I didn't even think about that. Like that happened to me. And things are starting to unlock in their brain that they didn't even know were.
That's great. You as I mean, you're the title president CEO of Thrive. So it's you're making this decision of saying, "Hey, I want this to be a part of our system based off of that status." So what is from your standpoint as like the leader of Thrive, why did you think like, "Hey, this is something that I want to bring. This is something important for my staff, everybody here." So it's not just one person.
Mhm.
It's a whole organizational decision. Why did you want to do it?
Well, one is because we knew that our staff needed it. We needed some opportunities to be able to come down from the different things that we're experiencing on a daily basis, whether it's conflict with a resident, whether it's conflict between residents, all of those different things. We needed a different way than just to sit and talk
Mm,
about those things. Um, and I just saw that talk therapy was locking people up. It just wasn't helping them to move forward. And so we at Thrive are very we're trying to be on the cutting edge of what's
mhm,
going on in the mental health field. We've done some other creative things, art therapy, equine therapy, all kinds of different things to try to get people to just be able to understand what their trauma is and what they've experienced. And so we were really excited. This is a big investment for us. I mean, we pay a person to come in 3 days a week to administer this. And the equipment and all of the things. I mean, we knew that it was important, and
mhm.
so anything that's important is worth doing, and the results have paid for itself just exponentially.
What would you say based off of that, the results? What are you thinking in your head? Like when you think of results, you have stories, you have situations that you're thinking of. What are some of those things that you've seen from a results standpoint?
The biggest thing for us is rest.
Mm,
We're seeing that our young adults are actually able to sleep at night. More often than not, when they come in, they're exhausted because they're always, when you're in fight or flight, you can't sleep. It doesn't matter where you're at, you can't sleep. And so what we're finding is that they're actually getting rest. They're coming into us having slept some at night. It was not uncommon for us to have a young adult come in and be like, I've been up all night. Like I just can't, and I don't even know why. Like my mind is racing. I'm thinking about things. I know that I'm safe here, but I just can't get my mind to shut off. And so being able to see them rest has been probably the biggest thing for us. But also just the advances in what they're able to do because they are getting out of fight or flight. We've got actually 10 of our residents right now have their driver's license. That's huge. Like they couldn't get past the driver's test for anything. They didn't want to. They're able to do that. They're finishing their educations. We just had 5 residents graduate high school. And so they're able to do things that they couldn't do because one, they weren't resting, and two, their mind just wasn't clear enough to be able to do those things. And so we're unlocking potential in them because now they're not having to be worried about what's going through their head and the thoughts that they're having, and now they're able to focus on what they want to do.
amazing. I mean, that's the that's what the results you want.
Hmm.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, is your life getting better?
Absolutely.
And those are the markers you wanna have, like driver's license, people are thinking like, "What's wrong with the driver? My kid's getting a driver." But when you take somebody that's in that trauma, fight and flight, I mean, having a job when we were at the group home, just getting them a job was
Hmm.
like celebratory,
Yeah.
like, "Can they do this?"
Yeah.
And because they go, "Hey, I've got this conflict,
Hmm.
and now I don't know how to handle it."
Yeah.
And now that their brain is being able to be out of that fight and flight, they're able to heal from that and move forward. From a which is I mean, that's amazing. From I mean, we put this in what, 3 years ago, 4 years ago now?
We're going on 30.
3 years now?
Yeah.
3 years now.
Under 3.
From a because someone's gonna look at this and say, "All right, from a you've loved it as a executive director." From a donor standpoint, like, how has it been being able to share that story with other people or other people that are supporting you guys? Like, being like, "Hey, we have this type of facility." Like, how's that story been able to be told to others?
For me, it's been an easy sell because honestly, mental health is at the forefront of a lot
Mhm.
of people's thinking. And when we can articulate the results that we're seeing because we're providing these types of resources, uh, our donors are excited about it. They're excited that we're trying something different, that we're doing something that not a lot of people are doing and experiencing the great results that we are. And so, if I were talking to somebody that was running an organization, I would say, don't be afraid of what you think the cost is going to be because one, the money's there.
Mhm.
It is. And two, the results that you're going to see in your program are not only going to be able to help you fundraise for mental health or whatever that looks like, but for the organization in general, because people want to get behind organizations that are successful, that are doing good things. And so we're able to show a lot of really good things as a result of being partnered with you guys in this neurofeedback stuff.
That's amazing. I don't know what else you got. Multiply impact, because it's like we could open up our own thing, and it'd be cool. We have a little clinic and do other things, but at the end of the day, when I was talking to my dad about it, it was like if we set this up at other places, we could have a multiple impact
Hmm.
of what's going on.
Yeah.
So it's I'm so happy that it's been a good experience, and this is new too.
Mm.
People ask me too. It's like, well, have you ever done it at this type of facility? I'm like, "No," but, like, you guys took that chance
Right.
to say, "I don't know if this" like, we told you, like, "I don't know, we've never done it on a aged out foster care campus, but we understand how the brain works and trauma works."
Hmm.
So, it just makes me so happy that you guys so thank you for taking that chance.
Of course. Absolutely.
Do you think and another question, I mean, you look at the ROI, like, I mean, you guys have done do you guys know how many sessions you've done? If you were to any ballpark, do you think maybe like, I don't know, maybe not. Maybe you probably can't ballpark that. We'll wait on that, but
I mean, we're doing on average 25 to 30 sessions a week.
a week. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
And 3 years, so we could
yeah,
probably do the math on that
yeah.
down the road. But I mean, that's still amazing that it's like the utilization of it
Hmm.
of um yeah, I see it as such a force multiplier.
Yeah.
Your therapists are being able to use it better. The staff are able to be able to use it better. You as a leader of this are be able to see things that are moving forward in people's lives.
Yeah. Well, and it sets you apart too, having it on your campus,
Mm,
because I'm sure that there's therapists and places out there that you could send somebody to get this done,
mm,
but the fact that you have it on your campus makes it so much safer for the young adults because they we don't ever offer anything to one of our residents that we don't already do ourselves. And
mm.
so, Terry and I went through
Yep.
this with you
Yep.
before we even introduced it to our young adults because we wanted to make sure that we could look them in the eye and be like, yeah, one, this is safe. And two, it works. Like
Mhm.
it's helpful. And so I think that that is really important to be able to offer that. Our all of the programs that we house on our property are much more successful than the things that we're trying to send them off. And so the fact that we have them to be able to get their education here, they can now, Phoenix Children's comes and brings their mobile medical unit out here so they can get their medical stuff done here. Um, all of those things that they can do here, they're much more apt
Mhm.
to participate in because it's a safe environment for them.
That's great. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. Where if you're able to have it on campus, it's such a and you saw that at the old organization, the same thing with that. So yeah, that's great. I don't know.